Hey guys, it is Hugh Hefner here, wearing my "I Am Your Father" hat that my kids got me in honor of the Chili Peppers because it's apparently the Chili Peppers weekend. A few days ago got on Amazon. I was watching the Behind the Music. Girlfriend told me I could watch whatever I wanted on television, so I went to YouTube, looked up the Behind the Music of the Chili Peppers, and remembered I don't have the first four Chili Peppers album. Now I had a copy of this album, Mother's Milk, because I was interested in Chad Smith's early drumming with the band, because that was the album that pretty much cemented the lineup as it is today. Again, of course, you know, Lord, I don't even know where to start on the members because in the 80s it was all over the place. But Frusciante, he was a fan of the band through the 80s, the first couple, about 3 albums, and ended up joining after Hillel Slovak died. Now, Hillel was a founding member of the band along with Anthony Kiedis, Jack Irons, and Flea, of course. Flea and Anthony, of course, are the only two that remain the longest running, only 2 surviving members that have survived all the turmoil that is drug abuse, overdoses, splitting ties, because in the 80s they had a couple of other guys, Cliff Martinez and I didn't think of his name, just looked at it. I was refreshing my memory here on Wikipedia because honestly I'm pretty good about remembering people's names and who was in and out of the band. They did some weird stuff. So what it was is Jack Irons and Hillel Slovak, they had started a band with Elaine Johannes, I believe, called What's This or something like that. Elaine Johannes was actually in Queens of the Stone Age, another one of my favorite bands, and was a songwriter with Chris Cornell, the late Chris Cornell, on a lot of his solo stuff. He was actually technically, in one of the books that I've read, the first lead singer of what would have been possibly the Chili Peppers. As many members as they've had change, and the way they kind of got together, I guess I could see that being a thing. Because honestly, Anthony, I think, was just coaxed to getting on stage and doing some of his poetry because he was a poet and wanting to be an actor like his father. So it was really just kind of on a whim that the Chili Peppers even got started. Very thankful because I'm more into the later stuff, to be 100% honest. I bought Californication when I was young. It's one of my favorite albums, Californication. And actually, this copy of Californication is the copy that I bought when it came out in 99 or 2000. Now, I've since had to, I think, maybe replace the disc. Bought it from a garage sale, but I kept the jewel case and the packaging because it's sentimental stuff to me. This is not the copy of One Hot Minute that I had on the bus that I had to sneak around and keep because my parents were weird about what music I listened to. Of course, I tried to listen to weird, I guess, satanic stuff, Marilyn Manson and the Knot and the What, and so this was one that kind of got taken just because of some of the stuff in the booklet, some of the words on paper. But yeah, I love the Chili Peppers. Love them. One of my favorite bands. So I'm really lucky. Like I said, I bought these first 4 albums. They're remastered with a lot of extra stuff. They sound great. The first one, of course, the artwork is weird, wild, and wacky. The first one I'm not really that fond of. There's a few songs on here that are really just stand out, like True Men Don't Kill Coyotes, Get Up and Jump, stuff like that, Out in LA. I mean, really, I guess the more I look at it, the more I listen to it, the more I'm in love with it. So I'm glad I bought it. It's got some demo sessions on there and stuff, things that you don't have, like Green Heaven. And then, of course, Freaky Styley. I think that was kind of the one that was like, ooh, nobody really... The artwork on that one is awesome. I love Freaky Styley as far as the artwork, but some of the songs are just kind of not put together well, and you can tell they were abusing drugs just because of the way it was recorded. It was just kind of like, record it and get it out the door. They had some really good ideas, but it was really weird. On those first 2 albums, Hillel and Jack Irons, Hillel Slovak and Jack Irons, 2 founding members, guitar and drums, actually wrote some of the songs, but did not record a lot of the songs. I think the whole album is recorded by other members. Um, it's kind of weird because I really always thought that that was just the lineup, you know. But I guess not. You know, they had other things to do. They were in a different band, and of course they were out trying to get famous. And at that point, nobody really knew who the Chili Peppers were. So I think whenever they put out Uplift Mofo Party Plan, which is actually their technically last album with that classic lineup there with Hillel and Jack Irons, everything kind of really came together. At least for me, I mean, I love this album. Fight Like a Brave, Me and My Friends, Backwoods, and then, you know, I think it was the first album they did a Hank Williams song. On this one, they did Subterranean Homesick Blues by Bob Dylan. So I mean, they're trying some different stuff. I mean, it's really cool. It's just, I don't know. I'm really glad I bought these albums just so I could delve deep in them. And there's like some history, and I think Flea writes some autobiographical kind of stuff in there, telling the story of how things were recorded and what they were doing at the time in LA. But really, for me, it's Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk is kind of like, even though like there's some stuff on there that Hillel did, and Hillel, of course, he painted that, which is I think where they got the title from. I think originally it was on the back, but now they put a picture of the band and they've, you know, kind of revamped it for the remaster. But this is the classic lineup. It's got John Frusciante and Chad Smith, which, me being a drummer, Chad Smith is one of my favorite drummers. So it's really cool because like I've heard it before. Somebody I think burned it for me a while back, but it's got a couple of Jimi Hendrix songs, and I love Jimi Hendrix, big Jimmy fan. Castles Made of Sand and Crosstown Traffic. But yeah, Subway to Venus on this song, and they have the little ditty on there. I think it's for Taste of Pain. Taste the Pain. That can't remember the name of the band, but my girlfriend heard it and she thought it was that song, Oh My Butterfly or whatever. But yeah, I think Flea and John Frusciante came up with that, or maybe it was Hillel. I can't really remember. See, they're kind of all over the place. They use stuff from different eras and different people are playing on the album. So yeah, that era was really confusing for me anyway. But I love it that I have those albums, because now I can really say I have every single one of their albums and can delve deep into that. Because me, I'm an albums guy. I mean, I have every Chili Peppers album now. I even have What Hits, and that's mainly a lot of the stuff that came out on those first 4 80s albums. And then it's also got, which is really weird, somewhere here I believe it's got Under the Bridge, which comes out on Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It hadn't been released yet, or maybe just been released. So yeah, that's a good one to have. I had it back in the day, but I think I traded it because I wasn't too fond of the 80s stuff for some reason. A friend of mine actually found me out in LA, which has some B-sides and rarities on it, I believe. I'm not sure that I didn't get that when I got the remastered copies of the first 4. But yeah, I've got every single Chili Pepper CD laid out in front of me. I'm even a big fan of the Dave Navarro stuff, the One Hot Minute. Like I said earlier, of course, Californication is a really great one. But before Californication, with John Frusciante, where everybody really learned about the Chili Peppers, if they weren't out in LA, if they weren't like, you know, chasing, telling, doing crazy stuff in California in the 80s, I think in the 90s it was kind of like MTV gave them a new venue, and Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out, and that, honestly, it's a solid album. It's one of my favorite albums. Everything on it is amazing. It still has that 80s angst, but then there's like some ballads on there and some stuff that kind of deal with the emotions that they went through with being drug abusers and coming through that and trying to stay sober and losing a friend to that drug addiction. and then also seeing another friend, John Frusciante, battle his drug addiction, and then ultimately leaving the band because of that drug addiction, which was what One Hot Minute came from. Dave Navarro was asked to come play guitar. Dave Navarro being in Jane's Addiction, and Flea played in Jane's Addiction when they needed a bass player. So it's kind of like one of those things. They're just like, those two bands are like brotherhood band. I think even what's his name? I can't think of his name. The drummer for Jane's Addiction, he plays on that some. So he plays some percussion on there. But, you know, it was amazing. It was just a few years. It felt like forever when I was growing up because I kind of lived through that era. I remember watching them Behind the Music and thinking, John's just gone. You know, he's going to die. But when Californication came out and John got back in the band, that album was really sought after. I mean, it's not like a collector's edition, like sought after, like, oh, I need to collect it. But I mean, it was like everybody wanted to hear it. They went out and bought it. And I think, you know, that's why there were several, like half the album had, I think, hits on it, like radio play. Everybody knows at least one song on that album, you know. I remember when Around the World came out, and I was really excited. Love that album. Now, I'm a big fan of Chili Peppers, don't get me wrong, but I have my favorites, and some of it is a little bit typical, you know. Californication, okay. It's a very typical album. Blood Sugar Sex Magic, everybody knows about, you know. Give It Away, and Under the Bridge. But I think there's so many different culminations of the Chili Peppers that everybody has something that they could hold on to and say, that was my time. Like, I have older friends who remember them in the 80s, and then other people who grew up around the same time that I did, and remember them from the 90s. And of course, I like stuff that's, I probably shouldn't have been listening to at the time, so some of the people that are a little older than me remember it like I remember it, and remember the 90s. But they continued making great music on into the 2000s and today, which, by the way, it's a really great album. It's John Frusciante's second to last album of the band before he decided to leave yet again and pursue a solo career. And that one's a solid album too. Now, they tried some different stuff on that one, not really in the same light as some of the stuff in the 80s or some of the stuff on Californication, but it's a really great album. It's a jam album. And then they put out the double album, Stadium Arcadium. Now, for years, for whatever reason, I just always thought that they had kind of just, I hate to say sold out, because what's wrong with selling out? If you're selling out stadiums, you're selling your albums, you're selling merch, people know who you are. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. However, I think whenever you're just putting out albums just to put out albums, or coming up with ideas like a double album, and you're not really putting everything into it, you're just, you know, going with emotions. However, as poppy as it is, and there's nothing wrong with pop. I like pop music, pop music, but I'm a rocker, and I like funky stuff, like the Chili Peppers. So, to me, I don't think, that this is the Stadium Arcadium album is representative of everything else that they had done. I think it was a more mature album than I expected from the Chili Peppers in some senses. And then in some cases it's just like they threw together songs that they had laid around. But then again, I listen to it now and I'm thinking, well, actually these songs are pretty darn good, and they sit up there pretty close to Californication or Blood Sugar. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't like to say that I'm one of those guys that listens to stuff just because they're, you know, it's from a band that I'm used to listening to, and saying, well, if I listen to it enough, I'll like it. Because if I can't listen to it the first time and get it, then typically I'm not like into it. But I think this is one of those albums that, like, maybe I just didn't get it because I was in a weird place in 2006. I was coming out of high school, going to college, and I guess I didn't pay a lot of attention to it as to what it was. Maybe I was trying too hard. But that's basically the two first culminations of the band. The Hillel Slovak and Jack Irons culmination, and the John Frusciante and Chad Smith culmination. Now, I think the Chad Smith, John Frusciante era was much, much more creative, much more mainstream, well-written songs. Anthony learns to sing on those songs. He's not just rapping. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I mean he does a really good job of mixing that universe together on both Blood Sugar Sex Magic and Californication. But he's a really darn good singer. I really think Anthony's such a good singer. He's good at what he does. I think all of them are. Flea's a tremendous, phenomenal bass player. Chad Smith's one of my favorite drummers, and John Frusciante, I think John Frusciante could fit in any style of music that he wanted to, because he's such a good, he's like a sponge when it comes to music, and I'm glad that he was able to kick the addiction, get back to doing what he was put on this earth to do. However, his friend Josh Klinghoffer, whenever he left in 2009, took over the mantle, and they put out a couple of really great albums. I'm With You, 2009. I really love this album. Rain Dance Maggie was the main hit that came from it. And Monarchy of Roses. My old band, we actually covered Monarchy of Roses. But I mean, it's a great song. I mean, great album, and there's some great songs in there. There's a couple of songs that actually made me really think about, you know, their time on this earth and my time on this earth, about how old they are and how long they've been around. Because I mean, you got to think, they've been around since the early '80s. They came out like right around the time that the Police were ending, but that whole like punk craze was kind of the deal in the world, and you don't really think about that a lot because you have so many different culminations of the band, and I just think of them up there with like the grunge guys. Blood Sugar Sex Magic to me is up there with Nevermind on my list of like grunge albums. Like, they're not really grunge, but they're not grunge either. So it's just one of those things. But I'm With You is a really great album. Josh Klinghoffer was put in the band basically by John Frusciante because they play similarly. They have a similar style and technique. So he fit, I think, to me, more perfectly than Dave Navarro. However, I love Dave Navarro's guitar work, and I love One Hot Minute. So I guess I'm a tried and true Chili Pepper fan because there's not really much that I don't like. I respect the early stuff. Like I said, I hadn't bought it yet, but it's just different. And if you listen to the first album, I mean, it's really weird. Like Uplift Mofo Party Plan and Freaky Styley, and like the first album to the last one, you know, Getaway. It's just worlds apart. You can still tell it's the same band, the same ideas, and California is mentioned a lot. I know they get a lot of flack for that. People make memes joking about how much they talk about California and how easily predictable they are with their lyrics, and I think they're proud about being from LA, and they're proud about who they are and where they grew up, and you know, I don't see anything wrong with it. So I don't know, just go listen to The Getaway. It's probably the most laid back Chili Peppers album you'll ever listen to, but it's still really good. I mean, it's really great. You know, the last two in the John Frusciante era was great, and everything in the 80s. It's really three different kind of eras now, you know, that you have to kind of pick from as far as like going and looking for a Chili Peppers album. And you never really know what you're going to get. If you've never really listened to them, they're kind of the band. It's like that whole like Forrest Gump thing. My mom always said life's like a box of chocolates. Well, you never know what you're going to get with the Chili Peppers, so maybe they're like a box of chocolates, because really they try to pay homage to a lot of their favorite musicians. I remember when David Bowie died in 2016, I remember seeing Flea on social media go out and get a tattoo, and he posted it immediately, like on his arm, like, you know, and he's got the big Jimmy on his arm, and they're just really big fans of music. One of the music videos, I think it was for Danny California, back in Stadium Arcadium era, they actually go through like they're playing live, and every live clip is of them as a different band. You know, whether it be the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper outfits, or Kiss, or Alice Cooper, and I think they did the New York Dolls or something like that. I can't remember what all they did, but that is them. They're a culmination of everything they grew up listening to, and they're trying to just throw it out there. And that's why I love them so much. I love the Chili Peppers for that reason. You know, of course, Flea and Anthony, they've been in a few movies. Back in the day, they were in one of my favorite movies, Point Break with Keanu Reeves, and that was just really cool to see them in that movie. There was another movie or two they were in back then too. I know Flea especially was in Back to the Future as McFly's boss in the future, and that kind of stuff is just really cool. You see them on screen. But yeah, they were talking about how, you know, they're not really seen as metalheads, but they love Metallica and stuff, and like they all hang out. So it's just one of those things, like, to me, that the Chili Peppers really are the band that gets it. They love all kinds of music. I mean, from Hank Williams to Bob Dylan. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. My video cut out, so I was trying to finish a sentence and it just cut out. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up because we're already at like 22 minutes. And as you can see, I'm pretty tired. I've got a sunny face again today. Been out in the yard and painting and doing and all that stuff. And start a new job tomorrow. So I'm going to have plenty of time to listen to albums like this. I bought Mott the Hoople and King's X. They have the little 5 CD packs where you can buy like 5 albums in a whole and listen to all of those. So I'm going to be doing that, and I might review them later too, because as you know, I'm a big Bowie fan. Mentioned Bowie, Flea's Bowie tattoo, and Bowie plays on Mott the Hoople's first album, plays sax and does some background vocals. I also need to do a Lou Reed thing, because I'm a big Lou Reed fan, and kind of tie all that in. Lou Reed, maybe Iggy Pop, Mott the Hoople, Bowie, do all that sometime. But yeah, go check out the Chili Peppers if you haven't heard the 80s stuff, or maybe if you don't know even the 90s stuff, the basic, you know, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Under the Bridge kind of stuff, or like the Now stuff, The Getaway. It's all really good. It's all very different, and it's very dad rock. I will admit that. I'm a father. My kids got me this hat, of course. So I listen to dad rock. I'm old now. I'm 34 in a couple of weeks. Still buy CDs. Still listen to whole albums. That's just what I do. And if you're here, I'm hoping that's what you do too. And if you like my show, give me a like, subscribe below, give me some feedback. Maybe tell me some tidbits that you need to get off your chest about the Chili Peppers. Hopefully not that you hate them, because I know there are people out there that probably do. I myself am not always a fan of everything. You know, everybody makes fun of Nickelback and Creed and all that stuff. I don't talk about that on here. I talk about stuff that I like. Of course, I'm not going to talk about many new country artists either, because, well, not a big fan. I like older country, but not new country. So let's keep the negative off here. Stay positive. And I will see you next time on Rock and Road.